Okay. All right, ladies. We are on the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross, and I am so glad to have you guys on. Um, Before I get started, um, I just want to say to all those who are listening and will be listening, if you guys have any questions to ask of these two young ladies, please do so. Um, and yeah, let's get started. All right. And once again, thank you guys for coming. Um, First question I will ask of both of you, which I ask of everybody that comes on my show, who are you, where you from, and what do you do? So I'll start with you, Annika.
My name is Annika Johnson. I am a Milwaukee native. I grew up in an area of Milwaukee that's really close to Wauwatosa. And I'm currently at UWM studying early childhood education. I just have a passion working with kids. So that's
All
me.
right. All right. Thank you. Jackie?
My name is Jackie Geringer. I'm from outside of Milwaukee as well, a city outside, and I work at Ulta, which is a makeup store.
All right. All right. Um, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, ladies. Before I start asking questions, I just want to give the viewers a background because I thought it was very interesting how we met. Um, I don't know if you guys remember, but we were out, me and my wife, we were out for dinner, and I overheard you guys talking, and I heard the words ADHD come up, and I told my wife, I said, "Hey, I said, should I interrupt the conversation and talk to them about what I do?" And she was like, at first she was like, I don't know if they will be receptive, but eventually she was like, okay, go and talk to them. So I that's when I approached you guys and say, hey, this is my name and this is what I do. And, we just start talking and here we are.
Mhm.
Here we are. And so yeah, thank you guys for coming in again. So uh I know that I spoke with both of you individually about the things that you uh are going through your diagnosis or whatever. So I will ask both of you, uh when did the onset of your diagnosis begin? And I'll start with you, Annika.
I my diagnosis came when I was in middle school. I was actually screened for learning disabilities. And through the diagnosis of my learning disability, I have nonverbal learning disorder. They also diagnosed me with ADHD. And growing up, it kind of made sense. I was always a kid who needed to move. I have always kind of been someone who thinks constantly and at a really quick pace. But I was officially diagnosed in the sixth grade.
Mm, okay. Jackie, same.
Mine started as well in middle school, towards the eighth grade, so the end of it. Um, sorry. I'm sorry, I kind of just blanked. Can you repeat the question?
No, 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 that's fine. I said when when did the onset of your diagnosis start?
Oh yeah, so yeah, in eighth grade, that's when my depression started. So one of my diagnoses started.
Okay. Okay. And with knowing that, how did your parents handle you guys, saying, going through what you were going through? I'll
Well,
start with you, Jackie. Go ahead.
for me, my parents were both very supportive, especially my dad. I'm very close with him. So I have a good enough relationship to open up to them. So I was able to talk to them about it. And it's, I'm sorry, I keep blanking. I'm so sorry.
No, no,
Um,
no. How did your parents how did your parents
they've
receive
been,
your
sorry, I'm sorry. They've been supportive and I come from a religious family, so they also have been very faithful, and we've been they've helped me through faith a lot.
yeah, that's cool, that's cool.
Mhm.
Annika?
My family was also very open about talking about how I was feeling and talking about treatments and anything they could do to help me. But I will say that there are other members of my family who struggle with mental health issues, and my
Mhm.
parents, and specifically one of my brothers, they had a really tricky job of trying to give us all the attention that we needed. So I know that my family did the best that they could, and I'm so grateful for their support and their love and everything that they've been able to help me with. But it's very obvious that it was a challenge for my family as well to kind of navigate having more than one neurodivergent children who also struggle with depression and anxiety.
Nice. That's awesome. It's
Um,
awesome that you guys have family members from both, both of you have family members that were there for you and that are there for you because some people, that I've interviewed had different stories where some people kind of looked at them sideways or some people didn't even believe them, right? Because, it goes back to that stigma. Like people don't necessarily want to believe that, something's going on here, right? Some people can't even grasp that understanding, like, hey, there's something going on that I can't control. But thankfully, you guys have had family members and support, that love you and that are being there for you. Were you about to say something, Jackie?
well, first, I can relate a lot to what Annika's point about having multiple children to focus on and how difficult that can be. But also, just I can relate to the fact that there are still people in my life who will tell me that, like, oh, just get over it and stuff. So it's still prevalent, but am very grateful for my family and friends.
No doubt, no doubt. And I
Emphasis on the friends.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking right at you.
and that's cool because even with myself, I had support, with my brothers and my sisters and my wife and whatnot. But, there were people that I know, like they just kind of, they look at mental health different. You know, they look at mental health like it's something that you can just turn on and off.
Mhm.
Not saying that they were not agreeing with me, but they couldn't relate, right?
Mhm.
Because they don't know what it's about. They haven't experienced it. So it's like, okay, I get how you feel, but it still doesn't change the fact like I'm going through something. So, give me that respect at least. So yeah, I do I am vibing with you guys on that perspective for
Yeah, and
that.
speaking to that a little bit, I think that growing up with a mentality, or at least like a little bit of that mentality, you internalize that to an extent. Like there are so many times where I spiral and kick myself and think,
Mm,
why can't I get over this episode of depression? Why can't I just manage my anxiety with breathing exercises? But there's so
mhm.
much more complexity to every individual experience that
Yeah,
we all have with our different diagnoses and our ailments and whatnot. And it it is a big, big challenge. But every day is a new day and a new challenge, and there's only moving forward,
yes, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, yes, ma'am.
And
Um,
oh,
go ahead, Jake.
sorry, I just think
Oh,
like
go ahead.
a huge thing that like differentiates people who like want to help or like it's when people are willing to understand or just try to understand. Obviously, like you don't want them to relate to your mental health issues, but if they're like willing to understand or just trying to hear you out, that helps a
Mhm.
lot. Because there are a lot of people who can't relate, so then they just refute or they say, well, that's not how it is for me. So how is that for you? You know what I mean?
Know exactly
Totally.
what you mean.
Mm.
And that's why I said what I said because, like I said, I have family members or friends that uh, they'll tell me, well, you don't have to go to a therapist for that. You know, it's all in your mind. It's like, what?
It is in my mind. That's the problem. Not everyone has as much control over their mind as you think.
Like what really it's just in my head, huh? So if I just think that it's not there anymore, then it'll just all be better. It's like, man, go on somewhere with that mess.
I can't exactly like put a band-aid on anxiety.
Yeah,
I
right,
wish.
and that's not the case. That is so not the case. um but okay, let me ask both of you this. uh I know that I spoke with you individually and you guys brought up uh having high highs and low lows. Can you guys break that down for me? What does that how does that translate for you as having high highs and low lows? Go ahead, Jackie. I'll let you
Oh,
start first.
okay. Um, well, for high highs, it's where I feel good about myself. It's where I'm happy. It's where I'm like doing things and being creative. So it's like spending time with Annika. I know, like we just were hanging out the past weekend. Like that was a really good time. I really appreciated that. So
Mm,
those are my highs, and I really like love to hold on to those. But my lows are as low as you can get, pretty much without the lowest. I've been pretty, yeah, as bad as you can get, pretty much.
sure, sure, sure. What about you, Annika?
I'm in a similar boat with Jackie. My highs usually encompass, they're a little bit more randomized, but it's waking up and being so excited for the day, and you're with your friends, you're with your family, surrounded by just joy. And I appreciate those moments a lot, but the lows can be very, very low when you're neglecting to take care of yourself, neglecting relationships, responsibilities. You're scared of yourself.
Mm,
You
hmm
are scared for the people around you. And
hmm
it's just all around really difficult to navigate. And it's also kind of hard to explain. Like, I feel like I can't do it justice, but the people who get it, if that makes sense.
hmm Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And and I asked that question because uh I think certain people like myself can relate to having those extreme highs and those extreme lows because like you said, it's about perspective. And uh I have to I've come to learn that when I'm not feeling like balanced, if you will, if I'm a little on the low side, it's like, okay, I have to recognize like, okay, the meter's going down. Let me do some things to bring that meter back up. Because if it goes too low, it's not good. So, and for me, when I'm in that low, it could present in different ways. Like, my temperament could be short. Um, I might distance myself from everybody, right? And and not saying like being alone is a bad thing, but when I'm when I'm alone for like long periods of time, like, okay, you know, Mark, what the hell's going on? That's part of what my lows are like, right? Because I get this I'll call it stinking thinking, where I start thinking negative a lot, and I have to like catch myself sometimes when I'm having that frame of thought. And like I said, I have to bring myself back up. Like, you know, not everything is negative, right? I have to, start thinking about the wins of the day, the good things that came out of the day. I often think about what my father would tell me every time I would call him. I'll say, "Hey, pops, how you doing?" He said, "Well, I woke up today, so that's a good thing." And he tells me this every time I call him. Every time I call him. So it's like, that is a win.
Mhm.
I got up today. So that's a win for me, and that's a big win, right? So I have to look at things from a different perspective than just um the material, right? And so I don't know if you guys ever thought about looking at things outside of the material and just saying, hey, I'm able to go to school today and pursue my education. I'm able to get up and go to a job and do something that I really enjoy doing. I don't know if you guys ever thought of that. I don't know what do you guys think of that?
Um, well, okay, I like this question because I think like practicing gratitude basically essentially is what we're like kind of talking about. Like when we like what you're saying is like when we shift our perspective on what we do have and like the
Mm-hmm.
benefit or the good things in our life.
Hmm.
And then, so I like have this one journal that I do. It's like every morning, and I always try to do like the most random things that I'm grateful for, like my dog or my Nana sweater or good weather or like like things that I tr don't think about because it really forces you to look at what you do have and
Hmm.
it's like it's 5 minutes in the morning and it changes your whole perspective of like, oh, I'm grateful for the sunrise right now. It's
Hmm.
like, and it really does just help to
Yeah.
see what you do have.
Yes, indeed. Annika?
I'm also very big on gratitude. I love journaling as well. Um, I think that expression in that way can be so powerful and kind of shaping your mindset and gaining a different perspective. Um, but unfortunately, like personally for me, sometimes gratitude doesn't always make me feel like 100%. I mean, it definitely gives me an uptick in my mood and my
Mm,
mental state, but sometimes it is so difficult because depending on what kind of mood I'm in, if I'm in a low, I'll say,
mm,
oh my gosh, this is everything I have and I can't enjoy it. And
mhm,
that has been like one of the biggest struggles for me when I am having like an uptick in anxiety or depression. But I do think that there are things that we should do regardless of mood, just because it's important to reflect on what you do have, like Jackie said, and be
mhm,
appreciative of all the good and
mhm.
try to let it outweigh the bad.
Indeed, indeed. And I think the word that comes to my mind is catastrophizing. We tend to do that, right? When we're in that low, we're like, oh fuck, everything is just horrible. You know, it doesn't matter, what good comes out of what you're doing up through the day. You just focus more on the negative. And I I know that I tend to do that sometimes as well. I can admit that, but I just think that we need to find better ways of navigating this,
Hmm.
right? We need to start navigating this, how we think, how we perceive uh, the outside world, and not saying that every day is going to be great, but perspective is still there, right? Uh, like I had some bad news, just like an hour or two ago, and it really messed my head up. But it's like, you know what? There's a takeaway from all this, and just tell my wife, I'm like, you know what? At least I made the call to do this, and we'll get it together. But it was still something that pissed me off. So, uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, we just have to, use perspective, in any situation, good or bad.
And I
So,
think it's okay to have both feelings of like not necessarily being ungrateful, but like not being able to feel grateful. Like you're able to have a good feeling and a bad feeling at the same time. It's like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Just like it's important to recognize that you're capable of both.
you are, and give yourself that. Give yourself the time to, get through that emotion, but don't dwell in it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And but allow
yeah,
yourself, exactly.
yeah, yeah. I got a comment here on the chat, and I'll just read this off to you. Um, Lavelle Robinson says this: either you sit there and all the quote unquote automatic negative thoughts uh, to ruin your picnic, or you do something about it.
Mm.
So basically, what he's saying, hey, do something about it or sit in
Hmm.
it, right? Um, there's
Yeah.
another comment. There's another comment I have here. Danielle Johnson says this: having faith in something helps you to know that everything happens for a reason too.
Hmm.
What do you think about that, Annika?
I think that in regards to the picnic comment,
Hmm.
there is definitely some truth to that. But especially for people who struggle with like chemical imbalances in their mind where they can't necessarily control their depression or anxiety.
I like how
Um,
you. Mhm.
for some people, it can be so much harder to gain a new perspective and fix their problems when it's so completely out of their control, when it's biological. Um, so, yes, to an extent, you can sit in your problems, but some people are forced into their problems, if that makes sense. And I think we need to have a little bit more compassion for those people who don't have as much control as we think they do. Or we place the responsibility of people healing when they might not be as capable as others, if that makes sense. So I do agree we have some control over our circumstances, but there's a spectrum of control that everybody has. And some people fall on the low end of the spectrum as far as control of those circumstances, if that makes sense.
I hear you.
Completely agree.
I
Like
hear you.
sometimes you can sit in it, but sometimes you need someone to help pull you up.
You
Most
do.
definitely.
You do. You do.
And that someone could be a literal someone, or it could be medication, or it could be therapy, or it could be something.
right.
Mhm.
Right. I totally agree. And speaking of therapy, how did therapy help you with your journey? Or how does therapy help you guys with your journey? Annika, I'll let you start first.
Yeah. Therapy has been really great for me. I think that it is very good for me personally to know that what I say in therapy is confidential, because something that I internalize a lot is guilt. And there are things that I feel so guilty about in my life where I've had to build up the courage to even say things in therapy, because it's like, I shouldn't be having these thoughts. I shouldn't be having these feelings. I shouldn't be, experiencing what I'm experiencing. But therapy has kind of opened the door in terms of me accepting that I can process my emotions and I can face my emotions. I don't need to ignore them. I can use therapy as a way to get to know myself better and develop the coping mechanisms that I need to just get through my day and get through whatever problems I'm facing in a slew of aspects of my life. Like, there's a lot of intersectionality in them being biracial and being,
Mm,
you
mm,
know,
mhm,
and in growing up in the church, in some of the traumatic experiences I've had. And therapy has just helped me a lot with internalizing, processing, and moving on or working on things that I know I'll be working on for the long run.
mm. Okay, you mentioned guilt. What type of guilt were you having? I mean, if you don't mind me asking them.
Yeah. I mean, as Jackie said, I grew up in the church. And honestly, when we met you at that bar, we were talking a lot about guilt. And specifically for me, I've been struggling a lot with the concept of God, because the way I grew up in my church, I grew up in Roman Catholic churches, and God is an ever knowing being who knows everything you think, everything you feel, everything you do. Nothing is yours. It's kind of almost like not having any privacy whatsoever. And I struggle so much with kind of being my own God in terms of like punishment, if that makes sense. Like, I hold myself to unrealistic standards of perfection that are so unhealthy. And that's something else that I'm working through in therapy. And
Mm,
I just feel guilt about even the littlest things, like, you know, not being able to share money with someone who's asking for it, not being able to, take care of myself holistically in terms of like asking my parents for help, even though I'm like above the age of 18. And
mm, mm, mm,
I just struggle a lot with guilt, and I always have, and I don't know if I always will, but I'm trying not to as much.
mm. I feel you on that. I feel you on that because uh I I guess I never looked at it as guilt because I don't like asking for help. That has always been an issue for me, even though I may need it. And when I do ask, it's like, you know, I just I feel like I have to humble myself to ask somebody for something, you know. And I know that my family is there for me if they have it, or you know what I'm saying, they'll do it, knowing I'll give it back. But I just I've just never been the type of guy that asks for anything. It's like I don't know, it just hurts my spirit to do it, and uh yeah, it does something to me, but I'm learning to accept it, I guess, because I'm not perfect, you know, and we all have our shortcomings, right? So we just have to be honest with ourselves and, learn how to humble our minds and just go with the flow, as they say. Right?
And honestly, asking for help can be such a healthy thing. It can bring you closer to people. It can break down barriers of um, communication. I think I'm also learning to ask for help and to just be honest, especially with the people that I trust most in my life. And
Hmm.
I think it's opened me up to thinking about my problems in a different way, kind of like being able to control your perspective, like we were talking about. Like, yeah, I might be struggling with something, but maybe me having a bad day means that I go talk with my roommates for an hour and I end the night laughing. Or maybe it means that I end up journaling and like being able to sketch something really pretty on the other page. And I think that asking for help and helping yourself can be such a great way to just open up your mind to problem solving. And it can be such a great experience. It can be so humbling. Like, I think everyone needs to be humbled a little bit. But I think
Yeah.
asking for help can be such a great thing, but I'm still learning how to do it too.
Jackie, are
Um,
you having any issues with that?
just yeah, well, I I'd say I did, not so much anymore, just because I've been through so much therapy, but also because I think sometimes, and I'm not saying you too, but I think some people equate asking for help as admitting to being weak or admitting as you're incapable of doing something. But if we really look at things, nothing in this world would be done by one person without asking for help. Like
Yeah.
help is necessary for progress. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree and I understand where you guys have been, but I've gotten to the point where I'm not so hesitant to ask for help, but also I've kind of been in positions where I'm like, oh, I kind of need some help right now. So it's just a lot of practice, I guess.
Yeah.
Proud of you, homie.
We got each other's backs, y'all. Yeah. There's a comment here on the chat that I like to read off to you guys. Lavelle says this: asking for help is a very healthy. It's very healthy, allowing things to get out of control. Oh, so get so out of control that nobody can help you, and not good. Well, I guess what he's trying to say is that it is healthy to ask for help and not necessarily a good thing to keep it in, which is something that I know that I used to do, especially when I was younger, when I was when I was out of the Marine Corps and my PTSD started. I didn't tell anybody what I was going through. So uh I didn't go through a lot of guilt, ladies, but I went through a lot of shame. I
Mhm.
went through a lot
Mhm.
of shame, and that it hit different. I'm telling you, because uh trying to meet those expectations of, you know, being, you know, uh, um, that guy that, worked hard and got through all the hell that he went through in the Marine Corps and, going to college and stuff. But I felt a lot of shame because I knew that something was wrong with me and I didn't ask for help because I didn't know how to ask for help.
Mhm.
It was, it's and I don't know if you can relate to this, Annika, but it's kind of like a cultural thing to not ask. It's something that is expected of you to just keep moving. Don't worry about what's up in here, but just keep going. You know, it's nothing really wrong with you, right? Uh, Mental health is just something you could turn on and off like a light switch.
Mhm.
The problem that I had was I couldn't turn off my light switch. The light switch stayed on,
Maybe it was out
and,
of reach.
mm, or both. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah, it was. And now I'm at a place where I reach out, I get help, and I do ask for help, even though it kind of it kind of, you know, gets on my nerves a little bit, but I'm not afraid to ask,
Mhm.
right? Because if I didn't, we wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Most
And
I,
definitely.
I'll just say that we wouldn't be having this conversation because things would be different for me if I did.
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
guess like to ask you, were there people in your life who wanted to help you, who were willing and excited to help you?
Uh, well, when I when I finally came to admit that there was something wrong with me, I did talk to my family about it, and they were very receptive and helpful, you know, and yeah, they were like, yeah, you know, one of my uh my one of my sister's ex-husbands, you know, he kind of laughed and told me, you know, like, I knew something. I knew you, you know, when you came out of the Marines, man, you was a totally different person. You know, you left, you know, this shy, innocent guy, and you came back, man, like a killer. You know, you was not the same Mark that left. You know, you was a totally different person. So, you know, getting help, man, you know, that's a good thing. You know, so I got a better reception than I thought I would. And making the decision to be honest about myself first was a it was the blessing that I needed.
Yeah, I
For
think
real.
that's true for a lot of people. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just
Oh, no.
think people are don't realize that there is help out there. A lot of people say like, "Oh, if you need anything, I'm always here for you." And sometimes that's not true, but there are people who are willing to help you and who want you to get better. And it's a scary step and it's a big step, but you have to reach out.
Correct. 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 Uh, I have some more comments in the chat. Boy, this chat is hopping today. I don't know what it is, but the chat is this chat is hopping. Marjo Farquhar, my wife's sister, she says this: it's a stigma in our culture that a man can't ask for help. True. You have to be strong all the time. Also true. It sucks, but it's true. We have to, and I said this in an earlier podcast that we have to have this face on, right? This mask. And even when we're hurting inside, we have to have this mask on to make everybody think that we're okay.
Mhm.
And I say that to ask you guys this question. Have you guys ever had to put that mask on to deceive everybody to thinking that you're okay when you're not? I think
Um,
you go. Oh,
okay,
Jackie, go ahead. Go ahead, Jackie, go ahead.
okay. I feel like I should have been putting on that mask, but I never really got the memo that I should have been hiding my emotions. And so I've
Right.
been like very open about it and stuff, but I later on in my life I've had to put on, hide my
Mm-hmm.
emotions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I sorry, I don't mean to, but I just want to say I'm very passionate about men's mental health. And I just want to say I think it's so important for them to be recognized, for them to be able to have emotions and to be able to be weak and to be able to cry. And I'm just very passionate about that. So,
Amen. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Thank you for sharing that. Did you have anything, Annika, or we can
Yeah,
move on?
I especially in the education fields, I think that it's somewhat justified. Like, when's the last time you saw your teacher cry? When's the last time your teacher blew up at you? There's a lot of self-control and self-restraint that goes into that. So I mask a lot at work and in my work. Um,
Mm,
and in my personal life, once again, I grew up kind of lower middle class between two brothers. And being the only girl, I found it so difficult to share things with my parents because it felt like they kind of had their hands full. And I never wanted to be a burden. I never wanted to inconvenience them. And it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, and it kind of only snowballed from there.
mhm,
Um, but I'm doing my best not to mask now, especially once again, because I think it's healthy to kind of face your emotions and process them in real time if you can. Because I know for some people there is kind of like a delay in that. But yeah, I have experienced kind of masking a lot in my life. And once again, I can only imagine how much more difficult it is for men, um, in men's mental health. I'm also passionate about men's mental health, probably more passionate than Jackie, just saying.
I hate it.
But yeah, I've definitely experienced masking before. I catch myself doing it and I try to stop it, but I do think there are some circumstances where you have to compartmentalize and kind of like a fight or flight situation, depending on like where
Mhm.
you are, what you're doing, who you're with.
Mhm. Good, good, good. Um, Again, I'll just say this before I continue on, ladies. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask of Annika and Jackie, please do so. All right. Uh, Annika, I have a question for you. All right. Uh, During our previous interview between you and I, you mentioned that you had to stay active as a kid, right? Do you feel the same way now as an adult? Like you have to stay active. You got to keep moving.
Yeah, I really do. Something that I've been working through in therapy is I am just the type of person where I always need to be doing something. I hate spending a weekend at home. I hate taking like mental health days. If I do, I'm cleaning my whole apartment, doing my laundry, like I'm writing a book. I struggle a lot with the concept of time, and also just like having ADHD, I just find that I'm kind of a hyperactive person.
Hmm.
So even my hobbies involve moving. I mean, I like going on walks, I like dancing, I like being active. I think it's one of the healthiest coping mechanisms I have, but at the same time, too much of a good thing is bad for you. And so I'm trying to learn how to relax and not to rush myself and to take the breaks that you need so that work doesn't suffer, relationships don't suffer, so that I don't suffer. Um,
Hmm.
so I definitely consider myself a person who always needs to be doing something, but I'm learning not to be.
Yeah, yeah, got you. Jackie, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
During our interview that I had with you, you talked about your dad and how big of an influence he was.
Mhm.
Uh, Expound on that. Talk about your dad for a minute. And first, I want to give your dad a big salute because I know that he helped you out quite a big deal. He was quite a big deal in your journey. So salute to
He'll,
your dad.
yeah, he'll appreciate that. Um, so I'm one of five. So my dad and my mom, they all have all of us and stuff. So my dad and my mom, they've been able to give us each our own individual like relationship and care. And my dad, once my depression kicked in and got bad, he like stepped up immediately and was like checking in on me, like make not that he wasn't doing this earlier, but like going out of his way to make sure I was doing all right. He was involved with like my medications. He was involved in finding a therapist. He really wanted to be hands-on, and
Hmm.
he has been since.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this chat is jumping. I'm telling you. There's I know, right? Yeah. Uh Somebody made a comment about the trust, and I'll read this off to you. Marjo says this: it's easier to ask for help if you trust that person. Also, people who really know you will notice when you don't seem all right. Can you guys agree to that?
I think yes, but sometimes people need reminders still. If they
Sure,
really know you, still.
sure. But if they care for you and if they know you,
Hmm.
they would know, hey, Jackie seems a little, yeah, let me call her. You know, hey sister, how you doing? I noticed that you were, that is what I think that Marja was going with this. It's like, hey, if they know you,
Hmm.
what I'm saying? If they know you, and they see like, hey, she might be a little, a little to the left. Let me call her and make sure, she all right. Right. I think that's where Marjo was going with that, but you can go ahead though.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And when I say reminder, I guess I was referring to like I guess sometimes it was like people would like be pushing off because they're like, "Oh, I thought you needed space," when it would be like, "Oh no, I kind of need someone." So just a
Mhm.
little bit of communication can help sometimes. But I agree with if they really know you, then they're gonna recognize it.
Sure, sure. Indeed. Indeed. Annika, do you have anything to say or want to keep going?
I think that most definitely, like the people who are closest to me will make note of when I'm visibly not doing well, but kind of like we talked about before with like masking, I am kind of too good at masking to the point where I think I've made it a little bit impossible for people to kind of understand what I'm not doing well because I might not show that I'm not doing well in like typical ways. Like I might just spend a little more time in my room. I might just be going to the gym more because I can't be home. Like, I think it manifests in different ways for different people. And sometimes it's not as obvious when you need help, depending on the situation.
Sure, sure.
Mhm.
Okay. This question is for both of you. Uh, did you guys ever experience any self-esteem concerns growing up with your issues? Annika, I'll let you anchor that.
I think every young girl struggles with self esteem issues, of course. And I
Mm,
think that having ADHD, the same thoughts just ringing, at least for me, they would just
mm,
be in my head all the time. I would fixate on specific things.
mm,
Um, I couldn't stop thinking about my hair. I couldn't stop thinking about my nose. I couldn't stop thinking about like my skin tone. Um,
mm,
I I do think I had self-esteem issues. I don't know if they stemmed from ADHD and depression and anxiety, but I don't think that those things helped. Obviously, they kind of
mhm.
just they led me to spiral a little bit.
Sure, sure. And being biracial, I got like we were talking the other day, I was like, you kind of get hate from one side and you get hate from the other side. So it's like, you're looking around like, which way do I go? Which way do I go? Right? Because you don't know you you're catching hell from both ends. So I mean that kind of compounds the anxiety when you're catching hell
Mhm.
from both sides of the fence. Like, damn, where do I fit in? And I'm sure that probably crossed your mind at some point in your years growing up, like, well, goddamn, where do I fit in? Because they don't like me because I'm dark enough. I'm too dark, and they don't like me because I'm not dark enough. Right? Does that make a little sense?
Most definitely, that makes sense. The only people who really understood exactly what I was going through were my brothers because they were in the same boat. But
Mm,
still, at the same time, they grew up biracial boys. And I find that sometimes biracial boys are a little more accepted by both communities. But growing up as the only girl, I think I was just a little more misunderstood. And I struggled with things in a different way that they did. And it was really difficult to kind of explain to them why my experience was just a little bit different, but they kind of were my confidants and understanding being in the middle of two families with two separate races, different cultural backgrounds, and trying to like meld those together into one person.
hmm hmm Okay. Jackie, what
Um,
say you?
for my
How was
Self-esteem.
your biracial experience?
Right,
can't relate to that.
right. Yeah.
It's a
Oh, you're
little
biracial
different.
too? Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah, most people didn't
Let's
know.
talk
No.
about it.
No. So for my self-esteem, it's manifested kind of in an eating disorder, I guess. That happened because I don't know if like the depression caused the eating disorder, but then the eating disorder, and then it was like a cycle kind of. So it was kind of like I was stuck into that. And that's when my self-esteem was worse. Um, but I've gotten better with that. Not as much as an interesting answer, but
Good, good.
A valid
Okay.
answer.
I mean, obviously I still struggle with it and um I feel like what has helped me get over it is just not caring about myself as much or not putting as much like not making myself a big deal. Like, why would I care about my weight? Like, if I actually think about it, why would I care about my height? Why would I care about so like I have to tell my depression a lot of the time that it's like why do I care? Because that's usually where my self-esteem with my body comes from is like, from how other people see it and stuff. So
Yeah. So maybe you should stop caring about how others feel, think about you because what
yeah.
they think will make doesn't make or break you. You dig what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's
Because
like
it
that's
really
totally
doesn't.
it doesn't. That's what I
It
believe. And
really
then but
doesn't.
my brain doesn't like compute that. It's like I'm telling
Right.
myself, "Oh, don't believe what they say." And then my mind's
Yeah.
like, maybe listen a little bit. Like so I got to battle that.
Yeah. I understand. I understand. And that goes back to the stinking thinking that I mentioned earlier. We have to learn how to catch ourselves when we get to that stinking thinking phase, right? When our thoughts become more negative than positive, when we start doubting ourselves and uh uh shaming ourselves, right? And for me, I'm at a place now where I'm like, and I'm gonna say this, fuck that. I'm not giving nobody no power over me. Zero. It's over for that. You know, Mark got this. So if people feel whatever way they want to feel, that's on you. If I didn't offend you or personally attack you verbally or whatever, I don't give a damn what you think.
Mhm.
But you better not come in my face talking that mess because you're gonna get caught up with these hands.
Marie
And that's
hands.
just the fact. And that's just the facts. So right, right. these Marine Corps hands. So yeah, yeah. So we have to put ourselves in a mental position where people's thoughts and opinions. I mean, yeah, I mean we can listen to them, but we can't give them power,
I
especially if those thoughts and opinions aren't helping us.
I like completely agree with that. And I just think the one issue is social media has just amplified like exactly what we don't need to hear. And so it's
Exactly.
of course I'm gonna read it what I don't need to hear and I can tell myself, oh, that's not true, that's not true. But still in the back of my mind, I don't have social media, but still in the back of my mind, if I read a bad comment, I could tell myself that's not true, but I can know that someone's thinking that, and that's gonna just fester in it. And it's but at the end of the day, that I shouldn't be feeding into it. I'm just saying social media contributes to that so heavily.
Yeah, got you. Hmm. Uh, now let's switch gears for a quick second, uh, because in our individual conversations, you guys brought up medications, and Jackie, you are pro medication, and Annika, you have certain reservations about medications. So, uh, uh, Jackie, I want to ask you this question. Uh, you are for medication.
Mhm.
Uh, would it would it be well? Do you think that there's a dependency on taking medications for
Um,
you?
for me personally, I I think yes. And I think that's just how it's gonna be for me, kind of for life. Like that's with my diagnosis, I have borderline personality disorder. So it's likely that I'll be taking medication for the rest of my life in conjunction with therapy. But I also take medication for sleep, like I was talking about with you. And I'm so dependent on that. Like, or it's just if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to sleep. So of course, I'm very reliant on it.
Sure.
Um, yes, that's all I'll say for now.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Uh, are there any side effects to these medications that you take?
Hmm.
Mm,
Um, I've been taking mine for so long that like it's just kind of like normal for me. For example, one of the medications that I started, it would be like upset stomach for a long time. But that subsided. So uh no lasting side effects like that.
Nothing of major concern.
Mm-mm.
Right. Okay, good. Uh Annika, I guess I'll ask you the reverse question. Let's talk about
I I have been on meds once. I was on an
Mhm.
SSRI to treat I had a really bad depressive episode my first school year, having moved out of my parents' house. Um, and full disclosure, if you need your meds, take your meds. If your meds are what you need to get up every day, like take your meds. But for me personally, I guess I don't know. I struggle a lot with anxiety around weaning on and off meds and also codependency on meds. But also want like kind of circling back, I feel really guilty about taking meds sometimes. Um and it's not good. I feel so guilty that there are people who need meds and can't get them. I feel guilty about the fact that people in the past, haven't been able to treat their different mental disorders with meds. It's really kind of hard to explain, but I'm not on meds now because I strictly don't think that I need them right now. Um, that is subject to change because in my mind, meds are just a last resort. And we talked about a fear of codependency on meds, and I just feel so scared of codependency on meds, even though, like, once again, if you need them, take them.
Sure.
Codependence isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just for me personally, I know that in my family there are behaviors of addiction and substance abuse, and I just want to make sure that I don't repeat mistakes of family members that I've seen who struggled with mental health and who've ended up abusing meds.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I know that you deal with ADHD, Annika, and I did some research and I found out that there's a shortage of ADHD medication.
Yeah, especially near college campuses.
I'm like, what? So, so, so before I get into these numbers, what's the difference between generic medications and non-generic medications? Because I see, you got these different names for the same pill, and and one name is generic and one name isn't. So, and this is for both of you guys, whoever can answer. What's the difference between the two, or is there a difference between the two?
Your guess is as good as mine, Mark. All I know is there are short release and long release ADHD meds. I'm not sure about different brands, but I know that the two primary are Adderall and Vyvanse. At least those are the two that doctors would typically recommend. And dosages may vary, but I am actually not sure about like name brand and off brand meds. I didn't, that's so interesting to me though, because it's like there's name brand and off brand cough medicine. Why wouldn't there be name brand and off
Right,
brand meds?
I'm
right.
wondering if it's like manufacturer, maybe. Could that be?
Hmm. Or like
Mm.
one little ingredient about like how exactly the pill is formed and melded or something like that.
Or I don't know, because there's always just like a one name for it and then another name, you know?
Yeah.
There's, so I think maybe one's about like one time I was told the name of a medication, if you break it up, it's like for example, buspirone. Like the prone is the type of medication, the buse, like the word itself, if you break it down, explains what the medication does, I
Hmm.
think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you mentioned Vivance and Adderall, uh, Vivance and Consider are still available, but uh, they said that the FDA it's predicting that medical use of amphetamine, methylphenidate, and this is a long one, lisdixa met uh, lixdexamethasone. I think I distorted the name, but those medications will probably will the use is going to go it went up actually in 3.1% this year. And because of the heightened need of these medications, it presented a I guess a decrease of supply. I guess the supply demand thing shifted. So there's more people needing it, which means that some people are going to be SOL because of the heightened number of people that are being diagnosed and that are being treated with these particular meds. So that's, I don't know if that is alarming or whatnot, but it is something to think about because it kind of goes back to the generic, non-generic thing. It's like, so are these particular meds the non-generic or the generic? And if whatever, I mean, if they're non-generic, I mean, is it better than non-generic? See, and that's it goes back to the generic, non-generic thing because I don't know. I don't take these medications, so I take different stuff. And does one help better than the other? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting too. How are you talking about how the supply doesn't meet the demand, but kind of circling back to what we were talking about, are there people who are abusing meds who don't necessarily need their meds? Are there people who are acquiring meds to sell on the street? Are there people who are using meds to create other drugs and things like that? I don't know.
Mhm.
I guess I'm asking, like, is the supply as high or is the demand as high as we really think it is? Like the demand of people who legitimately actually need those meds.
Mhm. 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 But yeah, like you said, the Adderall and the Vivance and Concerta, that's also an available drug. But the others, not so much because there's, like I said, there seems to be an increased demand from people, uh, and because of that increased demand, it's producing a limit to the supply. So I think it's going to be interesting moving forward how this med shortage is going to pan out because if there are people that and it goes back to what you said too about side effects, right? Certain medications, maybe the generic, ones can produce more side effects than the non-generic. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, ladies. I'm literally thinking off the top of my head because I just find that kind of fascinating that you have these labels to these medications, and with these medications, can it help you? Can it produce side effects? If any side effects, what side effects? And it goes back to your codependency piece. Do I have to take another medication to help for the side effects of the first medication? So it creates that vicious cycle of pill popping.
Mm-hmm.
So
Most definitely.
Jackie, you're a very lucky person that you don't have to go through all that pill popping.
Well, I had to. I did go through it. I
Oh,
think
did you?
yeah, and that's like I have like a lot of beliefs about medication. I think um like being scared of the side effects is very valid. Um and like of course the main thing about taking medication is that you have guidance with a psychiatrist or someone or a prescriber who is like very well educated on each specific medication because there's so many that like for ADHD, for example, you're talking about Adderall and Vyvanse and Certera or a different one, Concerta.
Concerta.
Yeah. So those are like all I think quick release ones. And then there's like I'm taking one that's a long release one. So it's like just for ADHD
Mm,
alone, there's
okay.
so many different medications. And if you talk with
Mm-hmm.
your prescriber, your prescriber is going to know more about you. Your prescriber is going to, if you
Mhm.
are working with a therapist, hopefully there's communication there, and it's you have your own cocktail essentially of medication. And
Mhm.
Adderall, what it does to me is going to do something different to Annika and do something different to you. So it's trial and error, and that's scary
Mhm.
and it sucks because it's like you're dealing with your life and your emotions, and it's like you're playing a game with it. But
Mhm.
for me personally, I've been at points where it's like medication is the only thing I can do right now. Like there's nothing else that's gonna help.
Mm. Okay. But it's good that it's working for you though.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? It's good that you're here and you're okay. So and that's all that matters, right? It's working for you. Um, but again, I mean, you guys have a right to both, have concerns or not. But it's good that we're talking about it because it's helping me understand some things about med use because I've had I've taken medications that gave me some, very trippy side effects, and it's like, oh hell no, I'm not taking that no more. You know what I mean? So um, this is a good educational tool for me as I'm talking with you guys. So thank you guys for that. Um, what are you guys doing to keep your mental health in check? Anyone could start.
Nose goes.
Okay. So like I was saying earlier, I saw my therapist today. So I'm in therapy. One thing that I really benefited from was group therapy. It was called partial hospitalization program, so PHP. That was really beneficial for me. And then medication. So therapy in different forms and medication,
Mhm.
and then personal like outlets. So whether it's self-care or creativity, just self-care in some form.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. Annika, go ahead.
Um, for me, it's primarily been therapy, but once again, like I've kind of my need to always do something has caused me to kind of neglect therapy. So I'm trying to get back on track with it. But honestly, right now, my mental health is kind of at a bit of a lull, and I'm trying to figure out how to remedy that. I'm trying to think of, well, not think of, but do what Jackie said, like join group therapy and
Mm,
establish creative outlets and make sure that I'm in constant contact with family, friends, loved ones. Um,
mhm.
but if anyone wants to leave comments about what I can do to make my mental health better, let me know because
Well,
I think it's something that is going to be ever developing in my life.
Wait,
Yes,
I
sure.
Jackie?
I want to be, thank you. I want to be a billboard for that group therapy I did. It was like the best, most life-changing like experience of my life. So, and I've been through therapy my whole life. And just this past fall, it was like that group therapy helped so much. The therapists, they were great. The conversations, the skills I used. I'm just like, I'm so happy I went. I got 3 other friends to go. If I get 2 more, I get something free. No, I'm kidding. But
You get a coupon, a
yeah.
punch card.
Right. Wow. Um, yeah, how about working out? You guys ever thought about working out?
Oh yeah.
Important.
I love the gym. I also love rock climbing and taking random walks. I took a random walk yesterday at like 6 a.m. and I got to see the sunrise over the lake, which actually set a really good start to my day. And I'm
Mm,
very grateful that I did that.
Nice.
mhm, mhm. That's good. That's good. Yeah, for me, I worked out today. I went to the gym today, so that was a good start to my day. Yeah, yeah. So that helps. Um, I even sun gazed today. It was so nice outside. Yeah, I took a minute, went to my backyard, and I just sun gazed.
Does sun gazing mean staring at the sun? Because I think that might be bad for your eyes.
Well, I did a little bit. I closed my eyes and I opened it a little, and I closed it, but I just went outside just to feel the sun.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah,
You get what I'm
nice.
saying? I looked at the sun for a minute, but I closed my eyes and I had that moment where I just breathed, you know what I mean? And just feel the sun just warmed my skin, and it was like it felt beautiful, man. I'm like I should be doing this more often, you know. But
It's
yeah,
hard in Wisconsin in
Yeah.
winter.
I know,
I
I know that's the thing. That's the thing, man. But going to the gym for me is a big help, and seeing my therapist too.
Mhm.
But yeah, and you know, Annika, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I know for me, uh, uh, being black or African American, whatever you want to call it, you know, especially being here in Wisconsin, we're a little short from a physical standpoint on vitamin D, which is something that the body needs, like in a big way.
Hmm.
Um, so I started taking vitamin D pills as well because it helps, you know, it helps build your immune system, and it does help fight. It promotes good mental health as well with the vitamin D, vitamin B, all that stuff. You know, working out, and I don't know. I have to just recommend that you guys, you know, look into taking vitamin D
I've
if your body is low in that vitamin.
I've been meaning to for so
So
long. I'll write it down.
you have
Yeah,
oh
I keep forgetting.
oh well, write it down now. So well, Jackie, I have a question for you. Um, and we're close to wrapping it up, so I was going to ask both of you guys a question. Uh, if you met someone that was going through a low, what encouraging words would you give to that person to help him or her?
I feel like if I'm allowed to start, I feel like for me, it definitely depends on the person because I know that what I may tell to my dad is going to be completely different than what I tell to my roommate and vice versa. So if it's someone that I'm close to, I think primary things that I would say first is you deserve to be happy. You
Mm-hmm.
deserve the help that you need to get better. And there really is only moving forward. And I think that those are sometimes the things that people need to hear the most, especially like the keyword you deserve. Because I think sometimes, and this happens to me, I'll think to myself, like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, what kind of karma am I getting back? What did I do onto others that I shouldn't have done? Um, but in reality, there are good people who do bad things. There are bad people who do good things. And baseline is we all deserve happiness and fulfillment and leading a life that feels meaningful and enjoyable, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jackie?
I should have gone first because you stole my answer. I was gonna say you said the keyword was
You had
deserve.
to hog it, man.
Yeah. So I would say agree, you deserve to be happy. I was also thinking you don't deserve this. You don't deserve to be in a low place. You don't deserve any pain you're going through. But
Mm.
Annika said it best.
Be faster next time,
She stole your
actually.
shine. She stole your shine, man.
If she did
uh,
it again.
well, I have a question for you, Annika. Uh, and this is the last question. You're in school for early childhood education, and I think we spoke about this yesterday. How would you utilize your diagnosis and life experiences to help your students?
I think that growing up neurodivergent and Black and female has shaped my outlook on education so much. And once again, like, keyword is deserve. What do my students deserve? Regardless of ability, regardless of whether or not they're neurotypical, frankly, like, I don't care what student is thrown my way. They deserve to come to school and to be safe and to learn and to trust that their teacher has their best interest at heart. Um, I feel like growing up with my circumstances has allowed me to better understand some of my students, who may come from a similar
Mhm.
place that I do. And I can even see it in
Mhm.
my work now, students where I just think that that kid reminds me of me. And I think
Mhm.
I'm able to give them supports that other teachers might not, and to bring a perspective into the classroom that other people might not. But
Mhm.
my primary mantra and motto is life is learning. Everyone learns all the time. Everyone deserves positive and healthy learning experiences. And I'm just
Mhm.
hoping to bring that to MPS schools. I'm hoping to bring that to whatever school I am blessed to work in. Um, and I'm hoping that that perspective allows me to be the best teacher that I can be for my students, because it really is forever and always about the children. The children are our future. And I'd like to think that the future is pretty bright.
Awesome. Awesome.
The children.
The
Children.
children are our future. Yeah.
Like I was a kid once. I don't know.
I got you. Uh, I don't have any more questions to ask of you ladies. Um, I've greatly enjoyed talking with you ladies, and I did learn a few things like in terms of the medications and whatnot. But um, how if a person wanted to reach out to you, what how could they get in contact with you?
I don't really have any social media, to be honest. Um,
Uh-oh. Oh,
So old school. So
yeah,
classic.
right. It's just dinosaur. No.
I don't know. Um, I don't know. Maybe if they have a
Email?
question, they go through you for me, Mark.
That sounds like a good answer. That sounds like a very good answer. I'll take that. I'll take that. Um, all right, all right. If you guys don't have anything else to share, I will just say I've enjoyed our conversation. Uh, it made me feel good to, get a laugh and uh learn some things from other people about what it is that they go through and how they're dealing with it. And I wish nothing but the best for both of you. Um, I have your emails, and I will be definitely keeping those emails with me. So if I can reach out again and just check up on you guys, um, if I can. Do I have your permission,
Yes,
ladies?
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. 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 Um, great. Great. Uh, well, this has been another episode of Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did. Ladies, you had a good time talking with me, us, each other?
I had a blast.
I
This
loved
is
it.
like the most fun I've had all week. It's Wednesday. Like, I don't
I know, right, right. It's hump day.
know.
I'm not gonna say it. All right, I'm not gonna say it. Um, but yeah, maybe we could have a round two.
Yeah.
Would you guys be down for that?
Mhm.
Mark, I feel like I
Cool.
have so many questions that I want to ask you now. Like, I am so
Yeah.
intrigued by your story and your journey and how this podcast came to be. And I'm very much intrigued in a part two. And thank you so much for having us. This really has been, I mean, who would have thought me and Jackie just like out and about would have led to this amazing
Well,
moment
oh,
in cultural
I
history?
know. Yes, yes, and I don't think that this us talking is by chance. It was meant for us to talk. It was meant for me to ear hustle in your conversation when I heard the words ADHD. It's like, oh. It was meant. So thank you guys for being open. Thank you for being honest. Uh, thank you for taking the time to speak with me again. And I just want to wish nothing but good fortune and peace in your journeys, whatever you guys decide to do. Um, may God bless you in your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't have anything else for me, I will sign off. And We will talk to you guys again, and thank you guys for being a part of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Thank you so much. You ladies have a good evening. All right.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. All right. Bye bye.